if I'm CBS, if I'm NBC, if I'm USA, if I'm any of these networks that agreed to say, you know what, we'll take some WNBA, but we want the Indiana Fever. And that's the version of the Indiana Fever you're going to get. What we just saw yesterday, that's the version of the Indiana Fever that we're going to.
That bench shot right there tells you everything you need to know. Caitlin Clark, the player who brought 3.2 million viewers to WNBA broadcasts this season, sitting there looking absolutely defeated. Not tired, not frustrated from missing shots, defeated. And the culprit isn't the opposing defense or a shooting slump. It's the people in her own building.
Once she plays within the system, once she gets subbed out 3 minutes into the game, and then plays for a few minutes, then subbed out again, and then plays for a few minutes, then subbed out again, well, they don't get what they're asking for. Caitlin Clark looked beat down on that bench. And I don't think it's the outside noise. Please.
Stephanie White subbed Caitlin out at the 3-minute 30-second mark of their game against Portland. 3.5 minutes into the game, the Fever had built an 8-point lead with Clark running the offense, and White pulled her. By the time she checked back in, Portland had erased that lead with a 13-0 run. This isn't coaching strategy, this is coaching malpractice, and it's following a pattern that's been destroying Clark's game all season long.
She needs to leave all 4 of them as fast as possible. I don't want to see her career wasted in purgatory with the Indiana Fever. Let's get right into it, shall we? Like the video, hype the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below and subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Caitlin Clark, it doesn't have to be like this. You have the power. You know what needs to be done. Stop letting them fuck with your legacy.
Here's what makes this substitution pattern so damaging. When you start your car on a cold morning, you let the engine warm up before you drive it hard. Same principle applies to elite athletes. Clark and Aaliyah Boston are the Fever's engines. They need those first few minutes to find their rhythm, get their timing down, feel out the defense, but White keeps yanking them right when they're getting warm. Then she puts them back in cold, expecting them to perform in the middle of momentum they didn't build. It's like asking someone to join a conversation halfway through and expecting them to know everything that was said before they arrived.
Once you get rid of those 4 and you get rid of your stooge of an agent, Aaron Kane, you'll be free. And I know we don't want her to go the LeBron route, but at this point, you need to get rid of Aaron Kane and you need to call Rich Paul immediately. You need to get rid of Aaron Kane and call Rich Paul immediately.
And it gets worse. After the game, when asked about the substitution pattern, White said this was typical for them. Typical. She's admitting this isn't an adjustment or an experiment. This is the plan. The only exception was their previous game against Golden State, where they lost, and White admitted she didn't want their backup point guard Raven Johnson in that environment without another ball handler. So let me get this straight. You'll keep Clark in during a loss because you don't trust your backup, but you'll yank her during a win when she's playing well. Make it make sense.
Stephanie White has officially brainwashed Caitlin Clark. Shout out to them. Take a look at this.
Y'all need to listen to this real quick.
Let up at all. They're going to stay full. They're going to be disruptive. I think
Listen
for
to
us,
this.
I think we got to get the ball inside to our post players. I think that's one way or one key to the game that will help us win is to get AB and Mo and really whoever our post players are the ball.
No is right. Yeah, post players. What post players? What post players do we have that can consistently finish around the rim?
Now listen to what Clark said in her post-game interview. She's talking about getting the ball to their post players, getting it inside to Aaliyah Boston and Monique Billings, and you can hear it in her voice. That's not Caitlin Clark talking. That's Stephanie White's playbook coming out of Clark's mouth. She's been completely brainwashed into believing this system is what's best for the team. But here's reality. Aaliyah Boston isn't Nikola Jokic yet. She's still missing easy layups. She hasn't developed a consistent mid-range or three-point shot. Monique Billings plays 8 to 10 minutes a game and has been a complete waste of a roster spot.
Maisha Allen, okay. But that's not what needs to be done. What needs to be done is you need to get pick and rolls set for you, and you need to let it fly and play your game. You need to take it to the rack yourself. Screw the post players. Take it to the rack yourself. Use your gravity. Force the defense to react, leaving somebody open in the corner, leaving somebody open in the wing, leaving a nice drop-off pass to AB. or a nice drop-off pass to Monique Billings.
What Clark should be saying is this: I need pick and roll sets. I need to use my gravity to collapse defenses. I need to attack the basket and force help defenders to rotate, which creates open corner threes and open wings for my teammates. That's how you use a generational talent. You don't turn her into a role player whose primary job is entry passes to post players who can't finish consistently. That's not maximizing your best asset. That's wasting it.
Bro, I'm genuinely losing my patience in real time. I'm tired of every single game coming up here and watching Caitlin Clark not play her game. Then when she has a bad...
All we want to do is see her play her game. All we want to do is see her play her game. And he's going to go into it when he has a bad game. You're having a bad game handcuffed the entire time. You're not having a bad game playing your way. You're not having a bad game doing it your way. You're having a bad game being handcuffed. I would rather go down with the ship sinking doing it your way every single...
And this brings us to the real problem. It's not just Stephanie White. It's general manager Kelly Krauskopf. It's team president Amber Cox. And it's that sports psychologist the Fever hired, who's apparently convincing Clark that all three of them are right. These four people are systematically breaking down what made Caitlin Clark the most exciting player in women's basketball. They're trying to turn a Ferrari into a Honda Civic because they think it'll be easier to manage.
Clark black basketball game. That's all I ask. If Caitlin has an off game with the ball in her hands, I live with that. 100%. If Caitlin is missing shots and they were high generated and they generated a high percentage shot, I live with the result 100%. But I'm not going to live with Caitlin Clark getting off the ball. Nobody's looking for her off the ball.
Getting off the ball, nobody's looking for her, nobody's screening for her. She gives it to AB on the top of the key. AB literally turns the other way and starts dribbling the other direction. This whole entire experiment needs to stop. Not even the Caitlin Clark off-ball experiment. I'm talking about the Caitlin Clark Indiana.
Think about what the networks paid for. CBS, NBC, USA Network. They all signed deals to broadcast Fever games specifically because of Caitlin Clark. Not because of Stephanie White's offensive system. Not because they wanted to watch Monique Billings get post touches. They wanted Clark going rogue. They wanted her pulling up from 30 feet. They wanted her threading passes through triple teams. They wanted the player who broke every college basketball viewership record. And when she plays within this restrictive system, when she gets subbed out every 3 minutes, when she defers to post players instead of taking over games, those networks aren't getting what they paid for.
We did it in Golden State because, quite honestly, we didn't want Raven in that environment without another ball handler on the floor, but that's been our typical substitution pattern. Oh, Golden State? You mean the last game that we lost also? You don't want Raven in that environment. Why not? How's she going to improve? How's she going to get better? But besides the point, why are you taking her out 3.5 minutes into the game? I don't care what your excuse is. No excuse is good enough.
Look at Clark's best games this season. Every single one of them happened when she went rogue. When she said, forget the system, I'm taking over. When she played her game instead of Stephanie White's game. Those are the performances that remind everyone why she's special. But those games are becoming less frequent because White and this coaching staff keep hammering her with the message that she needs to trust the system, trust her teammates, don't try to do too much. And slowly, game by game, they're killing what makes her great.
To begin the game, now we're starting our engine in the rhythm of a game of momentum we've already lost. This is coaching malpractice. This is coaching malpractice. That's been our typical substitution pattern. It's been terrible. Typically terrible. Every game. Stephanie White, you are attempting to break Caitlin Clark. That is what you're doing. You and Kelly and Amber and the sports psychologist, it's all you guys have been doing. The assistant coaches yanking her.
Here's what really concerns me about this situation. Caitlin Clark is at a crossroads in her career right now. She's a rookie dealing with the transition from college to professional basketball, which is already difficult. But she's also dealing with something most rookies don't face. She's dealing with a coaching staff and front office that seem threatened by her talent instead of empowered by it. And she's young enough and trusting enough that she's actually buying into their narrative. She's starting to believe that playing within their system is what's best for her development and the team's success. But that belief is going to damage her legacy if it continues. Because 5 years from now, we're going to look back and wonder what happened to the player who dominated college basketball. We're going to ask why she never reached her ceiling in the WNBA. And the answer will be that the Indiana Fever organization systematically coached the greatness out of her during her first 2 seasons. They convinced her that being a system player was more valuable than being a superstar. They taught her to defer when she should have been dominating. And here's the thing that should terrify Fever fans. This isn't speculation, we're watching it happen in real time. Every game where Clark gets subbed out after 3 minutes. Every post-game interview where she talks about getting the ball to the post instead of creating her own shot. Every time she sits on that bench looking defeated while the coaching staff nods approvingly because she's buying into the program. This is how you waste a generational talent. The comparison to LeBron James' early years in Cleveland keeps coming up, and it's apt. LeBron had to deal with terrible coaching and roster construction for years before he finally left to find an organization that would maximize his abilities. The difference is that LeBron never let those coaches change who he was as a player. He kept being LeBron despite the system around him. But Clark is younger, less experienced, and apparently more willing to trust authority figures who tell her to change her game. Which brings me to her representation. Aaron Kane, her agent, should be having emergency meetings right now. He should be sitting down with Clark and showing her the tape. He should be explaining that her market value, her endorsement potential, her legacy, all of it depends on her being the player she was at Iowa, not the player Stephanie White is trying to turn her into. But there's no indication that's happening. Instead, it seems like everyone in Clark's inner circle is telling her the same thing. Trust the process, trust the coaches, be a good teammate, play within the system. You know who wouldn't let this happen? Rich Paul and Clutch Sports. Say what you want about their methods, but they protect their clients' legacies fiercely. If Clark was represented by Clutch and USA Today published a hit piece on her, you'd see 5 response articles within 24 hours from every media outlet that Clutch has relationships with. First Take would dedicate a segment to it. Fox Sports would cover it. Every major podcast would address it. They would control the narrative because they understand that media perception shapes legacy. But that's not happening with Clark's current representation. She's out there absorbing criticism, dealing with narratives about her being overrated or not ready for the professional level. And there's no coordinated response. There's no protection. She's left to handle it herself, while also trying to navigate a coaching staff that's actively working against her natural instincts as a player. So what's the solution here? Clark needs to make some difficult decisions. First, she needs to have an honest conversation with herself about whether this situation is salvageable. Can Stephanie White change her approach? Will Kelly Kraskopf and Amber Cox support a more Clark-centric offense? Is this sports psychologist actually helping, or just reinforcing bad advice? If the answer to any of those questions is no, then Clark needs to start planning her exit strategy. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. She's under contract, she can't just leave, but there are ways to force change. She could request a trade. She could make it clear publicly that this system isn't working. She could stop being the compliant rookie who nods and agrees with everything the coaching staff says. She has more power than she realizes because the Fever need her far more than she needs the Fever. Without Clark, they're a lottery team with no national television appearances and empty seats. With her, they're must-see TV even when they're losing. The networks that paid for broadcast rights understand this. The sponsors who signed endorsement deals understand this. The only people who don't seem to understand this are the ones making decisions inside the Fever organization. And that's the most frustrating part of this entire situation. Everyone can see what's happening except the people who have the power to fix it. So Caitlin, if you're somehow watching this, here's my message to you. Stop letting them diminish what makes you special. Stop pretending that being a good soldier is more important than being great. Your coach literally said the team is faster with someone else at point guard. Think about that. She publicly stated that the team is better without you running the offense. What else do you need to hear before you realize this isn't about development or team chemistry? This is about control. They want to control you because your talent threatens their authority. And to Fever fans who've been defending this coaching staff, ask yourself this question. Would you rather watch Caitlin Clark play her game and lose, or watch her play Stephanie White's game and lose? Because right now, you're getting the worst of both worlds. You're watching her play restricted basketball, and you're still losing games. At least if she played her way, you'd get to see the player you fell in love with at Iowa. You'd get to see logo threes and no-look passes and takeover performances. Instead, you're watching her stand in the corner while Monique Billings posts up. How is that better? The clock is ticking on this situation. Every game that Clark plays in this system is another game where she's not developing the way she should. Another game where her confidence gets chipped away. Another game where the gap between what she is and what she could be gets wider. This isn't sustainable. Something has to change. Either the Fever change their approach, or Clark needs to change her situation. Because watching this continue is painful for everyone who appreciates what she brings to basketball. So what happens next? Do we see Clark finally push back against this system? Does she have a come-to-Jesus moment with her coaching staff? Or does she continue down this path, becoming more restricted and less special with each passing game? I don't have the answer, but I know this. The version of Caitlin Clark we're seeing right now isn't the version that should exist. And everyone involved in creating this situation should be held accountable for wasting one of the most talented players women's basketball has ever seen. Let me know what you think in the comments. Should Clark request a trade? Should the Fever fire Stephanie White? Is this salvageable, or is it time to blow it up and start over? And if you found this analysis valuable, hit that like button and subscribe, because we're going to keep covering this story as it develops. This isn't going away. This is the defining storyline of Clark's early career, and how it resolves will determine whether she becomes the transcendent superstar she should be, or just another talented player whose potential was wasted by an organization that didn't know how to use her.